Dr. Risak is well known across the world, but really was the driving force on the Lancet Commission on Oncology. So we'll start with Dr. Risak's presentation. What? No, she's not here. No, she's not here. No, but she has a recording.
Yes, I will check it.
Thank you. I hope. Do you have Dr. Scott's recording?
Yeah.
Then let's go ahead and play that. Okay. We have a small technical difficulty. We don't seem to be able to access Dr. Risak's recording, so we're going to move on to our next speaker, Dr. Andrew Scott from Australia. And his talk is also recorded.
Modelling the economic and societal benefits. These are my disclosures for research and trials funding, advisory boards, inventorship on patents, board membership and employment. You'll have heard in the prior talk by Professor Hurghada on the very impactful Lancet Oncology Commission on Medical Imaging and Nuclear Medicine. What I'll be presenting in this talk will be the outline of the very comprehensive analysis for the first time of the global workforce and equipment for medical imaging and nuclear medicine, and also the very detailed and innovative modelling which was performed to understand what impact on health outcomes and also the economic return on investment could be through investment in medical imaging and nuclear medicine at a global level for cancer patients. The white paper for the Lancet Oncology Commission was of course published just over 18 months ago, and I will be outlining data which was the subject of prior publications in Lancet Oncology outlining this background information. As part of this Lancet Commission, we undertook, as I indicated, for the very first time, a major global survey on equipment and workforce in medical imaging and nuclear medicine. This was done in collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency that has a database called the Imagine database, which was used as the basis upon which we built all of this new information. This database is actually available online with all of the information that I'll be describing, and you can see the web link at the bottom of this page. Surveys were sent to medical imaging, radiology, nuclear medicine, major societies and key individuals in over 120 countries around the world in order to establish workforce, equipment, and also other parameters that were available within the country. And you can see the source of the information through both IEA as well as other organisations is listed on the left-hand side of this slide. We obtained very, very interesting information in relation firstly to imaging equipment. This was split into the major imaging equipment which is performed for imaging of cancer patients. You can see here the listings for CT, MRI, SPECT and PET. Similar trends were seen for all of the equipment which was analysed. You can see for CT that mean level within high-income countries was almost 39 CT scanners per million population, compared to only 12 per million population in upper middle income countries, and going down to only 4 per million in low middle income countries and 0.7 in low income countries. Similar trends with MRI, mean numbers of 27 per million population in high-income countries, going down to 5.4 in upper middle income countries, just over 1 in low middle income countries, and very, very small numbers in low income. SPECT, very similar, 18 per million population in high income, down to 1.6 in upper middle income countries, and very few at all in low middle income and low income. And for PET scanners, a mean of 3.6 per million population in high income countries, down to 0.3 and 0.2 in middle income countries, and none in low income countries. I draw your attention to the fact that we defined low, middle and high income countries according to World Health Organization definitions. And these are listed here where you can see that the income per capita for low income countries is less than $1,045 per year. Low middle income countries between 1,000 and 4,000, upper middle 4,000 to 12,000, and high income countries greater than $12,696 per year. Recognising that more than 75% of the world's population are actually in low and middle income countries. We have some world map schematics to demonstrate the distribution of equipment for medical imaging and nuclear medicine for cancer patients. You can see for CT scanners, the higher numbers are in the high income countries, particularly in North America, Western Europe, also Korea, Japan, Australia, also Argentina. I've noticed the fact that the marked reduction in availability of CT scanners is particularly seen in some areas of Latin America, also in Africa, and extensively throughout Asia. MRI scanners have a very similar distribution. You'll note that there are substantial areas and countries within Africa and also in some parts of Asia where there are very few or in fact no MRI scanners available at all. This can also be graphically demonstrated here, where we've split into low, middle, upper middle and high income countries and looked at the number of individual populations within countries that are served by an MRI scanner, so that in high income countries you can see there are 36,000 of population served by one MRI. This goes up to 185,000 in upper middle income countries, but 900,000 for one MRI in low middle income countries, and 5.1 million in low middle income countries or low income countries. CT scanners, a similar distribution. One CT scanner per 25,000 population in high income countries goes to one CT scanner per 82,000 upper middle income, one every 232,000 population in low middle income, and one every 1.6 million in low income countries. For SPECT and PET scanners used in nuclear medicine, again very similar trends where you can see the number of SPECT instruments is quite high in North America, Western Europe, Japan, also Korea, Australia, Argentina, compared to substantial numbers of countries in Latin America, particularly Africa and also Asia. And in PET this is also replicated, but noting there are very large numbers of countries that actually have no PET scanners at all, particularly in Africa and parts of Asia. This is also illustrated in this summary slide, one PET scanner per 250,000 population in high income countries, up to one PET scanner per 3.3 million in upper middle income, one PET scanner per 10 million population in low middle income, and one PET scanner per 250 million in low income countries. SPECT, one every 57,000 population high income, up to 625,000 per SPECT in upper middle income, one every 3.3 million in low middle income, and one in for every 33 million population in low income countries. So clearly huge disparities in access to equipment, which clearly impacts on availability of imaging for cancer patients. The Global Workforce Survey, we believe, is one of the first that's ever been able to define the true numbers of workforce which are present within countries around the world that are dedicated to imaging. You'll see here in the table on the left-hand side that the mean number of radiologists per million population is 97 in high-income countries, down to 66 in upper middle income, 22 in low middle income, and down to 1.9 in lower income countries, with similar trends for nuclear medicine physicians, recognising, of course, that in a number of countries, nuclear medicine studies are also reported by radiologists. Again, graphically represented in this world map, showing particular problems of availability of a trained workforce, in this case, radiologists, particularly in Africa, parts of Asia, and also some areas within Latin America as well. We also found this to be extended into our other workforce for medical imaging, including radiographers, also scientists, physicists as well. We then undertook a very detailed and complex analysis in conjunction with colleagues at Harvard University, particularly Zach Ward and Rifat Atun, to understand what the impact of improvements in access to imaging as well as to treatment and quality could be on health outcomes. And this was done through a microsimulation model of global cancer survival, where we included data from 200 countries and territories and examined 11 common cancer types, which were esophageal, stomach, colon, rectum, anus, liver, pancreas, liver, lung, breast, cervix, and prostate cancer. This involved looking at statistics for both cancer incidence through Globocan, the stage at diagnosis, which was based on the SEER database. Expert panels were assembled through Delphian analysis, understand what the principal type of investigation, the role of imaging, and the optimal treatment would be for treatment of patients for each of these conditions. This was then compared to an analysis which has previously been published on access to standard treatments, including surgery, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and targeted therapy. As I've mentioned, the availability of equipment and workforce was built into the model, and quality of care and survival from the Concord database was also included. And this was published in Lancet Oncology in 2020. What we found was very impactful. Over a 10-year period from 2020 to 2030, the number of cancer deaths from these 11 common cancers around the world was estimated to be 76 million. But if you're able to improve access to treatment and quality of care, you could save 5.4 million lives over this 10-year period. However, if you added imaging, you would also close to double the number of lives saved. 9.6 million lives would be saved for patients diagnosed with these 11 common cancers if improved access to imaging so that the country could have the numbers of workforce and equipment equivalent to the next higher socioeconomic grouping would result in this outcome. We also undertook an economic analysis to look at what the return on investment would be for a scale-up of treatment, imaging, and quality of care. And what we found was that if you increased access to treatment and quality of care only, you would get a return on investment globally of approximately $6 per every dollar invested, which is actually a very good outcome for these types of economic analyses. If you added imaging to treatment and quality of care, you would in fact double the return on investment to $12 for every dollar invested, clearly demonstrating the compelling reasons why investment in imaging is justified in patients with cancer. This slide is a bit complex, but I'd like to actually draw your attention to what the levels of investment would be in order to achieve this return on investment. As I mentioned, if you actually increased access to treatment, quality, and imaging, globally, you would get a return on investment of $12 per every dollar invested. This would require an investment of just over $232 billion. But over that 10-year period, you would get a return on investment of $2.8 trillion. If you just looked at imaging investment alone, an investment of $6 billion over a 10-year period would result in productivity gains of $1.2 billion and a return on investment of $179 for every dollar invested. Clearly, this return is most noticeable in low and middle income countries, but even in high income countries, a substantive return on investment could also be seen. So in high income countries, if you increased access so that it was at optimal levels for treatment quality and imaging, you would get a return on investment of $3.70 for every dollar invested. So if you invested $164 billion, you would get $610 billion in productivity gains. Even just for imaging investment in high income countries, a $2 billion investment over 10 years would result in $286 billion return, resulting in a return on investment of $128 for every dollar invested, clearly demonstrating that investment, even in high income countries, but particularly in low middle income countries, is justified. And this is illustrated again in this world map, showing the return on investment. The darker the colour, the greater the return on investment for every US dollar for comprehensive scale-up of imaging, treatment and quality of care. So in summary, imaging equipment availability is substantially reduced in low middle income countries and also in some high income countries as well. And adequate infrastructure and access to radiopharmaceuticals for nuclear medicine are also barriers to delivery of imaging to cancer patients. We know that a trained workforce is a major issue that impacts on quality and service delivery, and developing increased numbers of highly qualified workforce, increasing connectivity between sites and countries can also make a major difference. Improvement in access to imaging will result in significant reductions in cancer deaths globally, particularly in low and middle income countries. And finally, investment in imaging, we have been able to demonstrate will clearly provide a substantial return on investment and therefore justifies the expenditure necessary for improved access to imaging for cancer patients. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Scott, for those insights and that overview of the Lancet Oncology Commission.